Hey guys, it's Amara. I've been thinking for a while what kind of tutorials I should do for you guys, and that's when the idea popped up. Hence, I know the struggle is real for most of artists, so I totally get the frustration. But today I'm gonna show you how I go from a messy sketch to a polished hand using some of my favorite techniques and some drills that actually works for me, and I do hope those are gonna work for you as well. So let's get into it. To kick things off, we have to look at what's actually going on under the skin. And look, don't close the video. I promise this isn't any surprise biology test. I'm not gonna make you memorize the names of every tiny bone. Honestly, who has time for that? Because I don't, and I know you don't either. We just need to understand the metacarpals and phalanges. If you get this shape right, you won't end up with spaghetti fingers. I'm dropping this X-ray hand to 80% opacity, and I'm gonna trace it over with red color. This is the only way to make sense of the madness so you can understand what I'm going to explain. For the fingers, we are gonna use cylinder split in 3 sections. And for metacarpals, we are just gonna draw a squarish shape. Is it a squarish? Maybe. Is it a block of tofu? Possibly. Trust the process, bestie. If your tubes and squares look decent enough, the rest is gonna be easy. So here's the game plan. We take a square palm, add 5 cylinders for fingers. Basically, it's gonna look like a very sad robot hand, and we're gonna add a wrist later so the hand isn't just, floating away in the space. And then we pile on the fun stuff. We're gonna add the skin color, we're gonna render, just whatever else it's gonna make it look more like a realistic hand. And then later on, we're gonna wrap things up for the final touches, and that's just basically all of my process. But let's just stop yapping here and actually look at the anatomy. So the hand is basically like a trio: the palms, the fingers, and the wrist. My process usually starts with the palm, but today we're gonna be rebels on starting at the pinky and the lines because we already have the base made. When you're sketching the palm, just remember to keep it simple. So think of it like, those IKEA furniture instructions. If you don't start with the simple blocks, the whole thing is gonna collapse before you're even getting to the shelves. Anyway, going back to the mystery. So we went from tofu, furniture discussion, and now we finally are gonna solve the actual case on the hand. So we need now a decent sketch before we paint, and honestly, I think this method is just incredibly handy. For the base color, I would definitely suggest you to keep it muted. I would like if you could avoid those neon saturated tones unless you want your hand to look like a radioactive glow stick. We need it chill so the blending modes can do their job. Just trust me, I've been there, I've done that, so you don't have to do that. So this is the part where we actually give a hand a soul. You heard me, a soul. I'm gonna sharpen those nails. I'm gonna add a lot of details on the skin so they all look snatched. I'm gonna give the wrist more personality. I'm gonna go for the lines that are a bit more loose but intentional because we want business. We want people to think that, we know what we are gonna do in this phase. Next, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna add a column layer. So we're gonna pick the mid-tone fleshy base. In Clip Studio, I like to use the refer to add a layer with a bucket tool. This will give me a much more easier feeling color as a base. Don't worry about being perfect yet. Those gaps that you haven't filled out yet, we can do that later, including the edges. We just need a solid foundation to build on, so yeah, it's all good. So this is the step is all about blocking the big stuff like highlights, midtones, and shadows. So it always looks like a little weird at this stage, but we have to trust the process. I'm using a soft airbrush to map out where the light hits the knuckles and where the deep shadows lives between the fingers. Alright, so midtones are down. I'm picking one single dark value to represent all the shadows. It's like putting on a spotlight the mystery, so this will tell us exactly where the light is gonna hide. So we know where the shadows are, where the actual drama is. So from there, we're just gonna fill in the gaps with the midtones and whatever else is needed. And here's a quick tip for the rose. So we're gonna do the shadows, mix in a few extra midtones like this. So please, for the love of art, stay away from those super dark colors. We want skin, not mud. You might have noticed that I'm adding skin texture now. So this is where you can really play around with all your brushes on details, on textures and stuff like that. So if you want it to look your hand a bit more like desaturated, what I choose in this case is a more desaturated purple for these kind of small details. So how can you really figure it out where to actually add those kind of lines? So look at your own knuckles and you see those tiny horizontal lines. So yeah, I'm driving those with a super thin, slightly darker brush. But here's the trick. Don't just draw them straight lines. Make them slightly curved. They can vary from in length. It can make the joints look more natural. Alright, so it's time for the highlights. So since we are painting a lighter skin tone, we need these bright spots to prove the hand isn't just flat. So the skin here is stretched so tight over the bone that it's practically screaming. I'm slapping on a blending mode glowing dodge layer and I'm gonna hit the knuckles with almost white color. Each knuckle is like a mountain, so we're seeing the sun on those knuckles. And you see those red to orangish tones? That's just the light snitching on the blood inside of our hands. So we are painting that in more lighter tone, like glowing dodge, more pinkish tones. And yeah, I'm gonna repeat this kind of process to all the fingers now. Alright, so for the fun here, I'm using a tiny sharp brush to add those little wisps near the wrist and the side of the hand. Keep your stroke quick and light, and for the more lighter tone of the hand, I usually go with a lighter brown or more desaturated blonde tone so it looks more natural. We are going to add a color dodge layer and then we're gonna use an airbrush to create that dreamy effect. You can always add more details and more accessorizes if you want, like I've used in this case to create a more bluish veins on the hand because it will look much more realistical, and you can add a few more adjustments here and there and we should be all done. Share your thoughts in the comments below if this tutorial was fun, was useful, and let me know what other stuff you would like for me to see. And please don't forget to subscribe, guys. See you next time.